Relationships aren't trash cans, but people treat them like trash cans all the time. We dump our baggage into the relationship, into the trash can, and wonder why it stinks. I'm SeMonne Campbell, I'm your life coach, and this is another episode of I Will, Will You. Hey everybody, we missed you, we're back in your face. Listen, marriages, relationships is not about dumping on each other. You know, my wife is not a trash can. I'm not a trash can for her. But we typically, we tend to get a perspective in the relationship as the relationship starts going on that we can dump our garbage into each other. And what we found is that a lot of times when couples are doing that, it's not because you don't love each other. It's because you settled into the relationship. You forgot how special that mate is to you. You forgot how special that person, what that person means to you in your life. And so you redefine them. You redefine them as your garbage can. You redefine their worth as something worthless. And you begin to dump your issues. And not on purpose, it just happens because they're living day to day with you. And we want to correct that. Whenever you find something in your life that's disrupting the pattern of success, there's an immediate need to cut it off. There's an immediate need to disrupt that negative pattern of behavior. And so when you find yourself treating your spouse as trash, you got to interrupt that pattern, and you got to do it quickly, or else it'll become a cancer, it'll start to grow, and we don't want that to happen. Too many successful marriages, too many successful people in life are making it because they're adding these attributes to their marriage. And we know that you can do the same. So let's talk about it.
Right, and I know some of you guys are probably saying, how do I know that I am treating my, spouse like trash? Maybe they deserve it, maybe it's the truth how I feel. But anytime when it's kind of like an inner voice or, something inside your head saying, hey, you're always having something negative to say about your spouse. You feel that, right. when you're only having one vision of them and it's a negative vision,
Yeah. I mean, okay, so like if I'm just came home from a rough day at work, I took a lot of that baggage home with me. And so when I get home, in lieu of just loving on my wife, what I tend to do is just dump on her. Like, you're just my punching bag right now. All the stuff that's built up within me, I'm just gonna throw it off on you, and you bear it because I don't want to bear it.
Right. And sometimes it's not even just your job. Like, it could be family, friends, your kids.
It's all the issues of life.
Right.
All the issues of life just bearing down on you constantly.
Right.
And who else do you have to turn to except your spouse? And you say, well, my spouse is supposed to be there for me. But let me ask you this. If you had a friend that if all your friend did was constantly become negative, would you enjoy being around that person? If they were constantly saying something negative, never had nothing good to say, everything was always negative, there was always a problem going on, there's always something to solve, there was always something to conquer, and you could never enjoy that time with your friend, you would probably distance yourself from that friend. And that's what we do in relationships. We constantly take our spouse and say, forget about the fun times, forget about the good times, forget about building you up, let me dump my problems on you. Right? And so now it's time to shift your perspective. That's what that's what this video is about, is shifting your perspective. Because what we find is that the reason why we do that is because we lost perspective of what our mate means to us. And in that perspective, when we first got together, it was all about, oh, you look good, he looks good, she looks good. It was all about that intimacy. It was all about trying to impress each other. That's because you had a perspective of, that's something that I want. And that's what all behavior is about. It's about what I want out of this. And so you put your best face forward. You put your resume up, and you show them the good side of you, right? But when you settle in and it becomes the business of the relationship and the romance starts to crystallize and all of that stuff, then that resume you begins to come down, and you begin to show, I would say, your true colors, you know, the good and the bad. And part of that bad, we need to be cognizant of that. We need to be conscious that what I'm doing is not winning my mate, right? The way I did in the beginning. What I'm doing right now is not winning it. It's pushing them away, because nobody likes to be around an unhappy person. No one likes to be around a negative person, but that's what we do on a day-to-day basis. So this video is about shifting your perspective. And, go ahead.
And I was going to say, you know, we have three major key points that can help you, give you something to focus on and stay on track.
Right, right. And these three areas is all about perspective. Number one, it's your language, right? Because I can tell where your perspective is by the way you communicate. If your language is always pointing out the bad, you'll never do anything. You're never there for me. You're never doing this. Well, that's out of the mouth, the heart is speaking. And what it's saying is that my perspective of you is negative. Right. So for you couples, shift that right now. All right. We got to disrupt that behavior. We can't talk negatively, right? Because that's showing us where our perspective is concerning our spouse.
Right. I agree.
You agree?
I agree.
Okay. So number two is all about viewpoints, right? That's what you see. Okay, so if you come home and if I see SeMonne laying on the couch and instantly I see a lazy person, oh, you're lazy. That's an indication that my perspective of her is in the wrong place, right? And if she sees me playing a video game or different things, and instantly she sees a little boy or something like that, she doesn't see a man that's trying to relax or anything like that, then her perspective, her viewpoint of me is off. Right. Okay, and in any time in life, if you find your compass off, your viewpoint's off, you're gonna walk in that direction. So if I'm looking in that direction, guess where I'm gonna lead to, right? And so language and viewpoint, and then we got reference. And that last point is reference. That's all about, with reference, it's all about the reference that you have mentally of your spouse. So if your spouse done something to you wrong and you reference that memory in your mind as negative, then every time you see your spouse, you're thinking negative, negative, negative. All right, you're a bum. You're no good. You're lazy. I could be doing better. That's all references that we have for our spouse. And where do you think we're going to end up at?
Because all it takes is a thought. A thought can take you so far, to
boom,
so
boom,
many places. Boom. Yeah. So, you know, and it's good to even maybe talk, self-talk yourself through the process, or even, are learning how to just maybe watch your words, because you're not in a good place, right now. And, right. Your vision is a little bit off, and, you might mess up some things that you didn't want to mess up.
That's good. You don't want to mess up. So, and then also, the way that the body's built, the way that God built our mind is that every action requires a response, right? And so if I got a negative viewpoint, if my language is negative and I speak that to my wife, she has to respond from that negativity. So how do I think the response is going to be? The response has to be negative. Right. So if I'm speaking to her in a negative viewpoint, then she's going to respond to me negative. Garbage produces garbage, right? Apple seeds produce apples. Orange seeds produce oranges. And so negativity and negative seeds and negative perspectives produce negativity. Right. And so if you, and we started this clip off by saying, if your relationship stinks, or if you're constantly treating your relationship like garbage, then don't question why it stinks. If you're constantly throwing your trash at each other, then don't wonder why it stinks. But it can smell a lot better, and it can be an enjoyable thing if you shift these three focus areas. I know what you focus on every day is what you're going to get out of life, right? And that's your language, the way you talk. Number two, your viewpoints, what you see. And number three, your perspective, right? You give those a little bit of time this week just to take out a piece of paper and just really consciously write down what you've been, what your perspective is concerning your relationship. If only thing that you have to say is negative, then it's time to disrupt that pattern of thought. Give yourself some utensils, some tools to start to change the way that you look about your spouse.
And I was on, my new quote for this year. I've been saying it so much, Tim and the kids is probably tired of it, but it's an old saying, you can see the glass is half empty or half full. And however you see it, that's the path that you're going to head down. So, it's all up to you.
You create your future. Your future's ahead of you. It can be good or bad based on what your perspective is. Listen, this is Tim and SeMonne, I Will You. Listen, this year is going to be the best year. Make it your year. Now, at the end of this video, I'm going to put up a link. Matter of fact, let's put it up right now. The link is right here. Okay? Go to this link and let's start the dialogue. Also, continue this conversation on Facebook. If you have some viewpoints of your own that you want to share about what do you think about perspective, how to stop looking at your mate negatively, post it on our Facebook page. Okay, and then some of the best discussions is things that we can get growth out of this comes from us dialoguing with you. So we talk to people over the phone, we talk to people through email, we talk to people through Facebook. Communicate and dialogue with us, and we'll see you on the next post.